Hi, my name is Monica Fernandes. Here at Evolution Essentials, I want you to love yourself first. That's why I teach people how to lead a wellness lifestyle with holistic tools such as essential oils and Reiki. So you too can have more love, more health, and more balance in your life. I felt inspired to connect with my loved ones, my friends, and contacts all over the world. They are experts in their field. I wanted to share with you our conversations and how we deal with stress and crisis. So if at any moment in your life you're feeling down, this show is for you. Well, hello, my friend.
Hello, Monica.
This is João Bocas, and I've known João for, oh my God, I'm scared to think about this. How long have we known each other? Maybe 30 plus years, I think, right?
Definitely 30 plus.
It seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it really was that long ago. But anyway, João, for those people that don't know you, have not known you for 30 years, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, nice to see you. It's really a long time back to the days when we were nice and young and small, yeah?
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
And yeah, my name is João Bocas. For those who don't know me, I'm actually a life transformation coach. I also work as a technology entrepreneur, and I do keynotes on different subjects. But recently I specialize in change and life transformation. That's my thing.
That's awesome. So do you work with, normally do you work with individuals or companies?
In that purpose now, in terms of life coaching, I
Yeah.
work more with individuals now.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Very good. So we'll link up your stuff in the description so people can get in touch with you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you, as a life coach, and you're giving advice to people, and we're also going through some different times. And I wanted to ask you how you deal with moments where if you're having a bad day, like what are some of the things that you maybe do or have done differently perhaps than before at this time to sort of shift that energy?
Well, good. Yeah, good question. Well, I try to remain positive, and I try to put my empathies on the action. Because the action takes you away from some kind of negativity that you create or is already there. And actually, at the moment, it's kind of difficult to move away from negativity.
That's true.
But doing something, whatever that means, whatever there is work related or a pleasure or reading anything that the action takes you away from negativity. So I always try to do something.
Yes. So give me an example of something that you do, you want to sort of shift the energy.
Yeah, well, for example, I try to have a very a neat routine for myself. Sometimes I can be, to be honest with you, and totally open, I can be a bit hard or harsh on myself, but I try to do things very not just well, but I try to do things structures.
Yeah, so planned.
And so I know what I'm doing, and I try to be disciplined.
Yes. So, I mean, I have a problem with discipline sometimes in terms of routines, but one of the things that I've been doing ever since all of this is happening and we're staying home is I've been going for a walk every morning. So even before sometimes, the sun has hardly, come up, and I go for a walk because I feel like I need to sort of move my body, and it just kind of starts the day. That's been my routine that I've been doing. That's completely different. I wasn't doing that before. So I guess I'm trying to be a little bit more structured, but that's definitely something that is difficult for me naturally. But um, so how how are you doing some exercising? Are you doing some things that to move yourself?
Yeah, I always exercise. I mean,
Yes.
I love sport and fitness. I always exercise. I go through stages where, for example, I'm really committed to a fitness endurance event, and I'm training 5 or 6 days a week. And then I go through that uh, kind of maintenance stage when I'm not training for a
Hmm.
purpose. I'm
Yes.
just trying to keep
Healthy.
reasonably fit and
Yeah.
healthy. And then I go through, like, I go to the gym maybe twice, 3 times a week, but my motivation is slightly less.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but I always exercise. Yeah,
But now, I mean, gyms are closed now, right?
yeah. Gyms are closed now, unfortunately.
But so are you going outside? Are you doing it at home?
I'm doing at home at the
Yeah.
moment. I'm following some live sessions with a trainer in here in UK that does the
Hmm.
Instagram sessions.
Oh,
He's
fantastic.
fantastic, and he takes you through the paces. You just have
Hmm.
to follow what he says. So I've been doing that, and sometimes I go on a bike ride or a run to mix it up.
Hmm.
So I try not to do the same thing every day.
That's great. So so in this time of change, because it is a time of change. I'm if somebody calls you and they're having a hard time, what's the first thing that you normally tell them?
Well, I try to um, shift their mindset about, because we as human beings we tend to focus, for example, on a problem or on a struggle, try to ease off the perhaps mental pressure or perception,
Mm-hmm.
try to think, well, send some positive messages, things will pass, things will get better, for example. But also one thing that I also learn is to um, try to put the emphasis on in the future, not actually where we've been or where we are now, but where we are going. And that
Mm-hmm.
tends to work for me and tends to work for people, that things
Mm-hmm.
will eventually get better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you finding that this sort of situation is presenting some new opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, in any crisis is always two sides, isn't it? It's always the
Mm-hmm.
ones they lose, and then there will be uh, people actually doing well in times of crisis. And you see, for example, in economic crisis, and in 2008, for example, when
Mm-hmm.
a lot of companies fall down and a lot of people got rich at the same time. And now there are actually companies doing better because of, for example, people need to use the technologies because
Mm-hmm.
everybody is working at home, or
Mm-hmm.
they use some capabilities that were there but now are used more often. So
Mm-hmm.
there are always winners and losers.
I
And
know you're big on technology, so do you think that after all of this sort of settles down, do you think things will return the same, or is it going to be sort of a hybrid sort of way that people are doing things?
well, I noticed that even before these recent crises, for example, in events, I go to a lot of events. It was
Mm-hmm.
already a kind of, it was already a trend that some events become more virtual, and some smaller events are created
Mm-hmm.
virtually, and there are actually some speakers speaking virtually at
Mm-hmm.
the present events. But
Mm-hmm.
now we are kind of forced to do that because of the traveling restrictions and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So now there are big events doing only online and virtually. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it was already a trend in motion.
Mm-hmm.
Now it has been forced to speed up
Yeah,
and to
increase.
be in the increase and be actually replaced by,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the actual situation.
Yes. I feel like I'm connecting more with people now. It's almost like I'm not forcing myself to do it. I'm just naturally doing it. And I feel like, we're always better when we're connected. The humans are just, I think there's strength in numbers. So I feel like, I'm connecting with my loved ones. I'm connecting with, people that I haven't talked to in a while. And just because I feel like, outside of, of the essential workers, that people are experiencing this, um, probably in different ways. Some are probably doing well, and others are probably doing not so well. And I just feel like I can reach out. That's something I can do. And also part of the reason why all of these talks started, because I wanted to sort of just check in with people, but also because I knew that, um, I'm so lucky to have friends in my life that are experts at these different things. And so it was a natural thing to just try to help people, um, give them some different ideas on how to deal with things. But so getting back to, you know, stressful times and crisis, um, what is it that you fear the most?
Oh.
I know it's a big question. It
Now
doesn't
we're
have to
going,
be.
yeah, now
Go
we're
ahead.
going very deep. Yeah.
Yes, we are. We should go deep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I had many fears in the past, and I've done a lot of life transitions, life transformation in my own life,
Hmm.
and I had a lot of different types of crises. But I think because I'm a parent now, I'm a
Hmm.
father, I think when I hear some kind of danger, my
Hmm.
thinking directs to my son.
Yeah.
So my biggest fear is if anything happens
Hmm.
to my boy.
Hmm. And so how do you sort of get out of that and go into, what are you most hopeful for? And that's sort of, shifting that fear into what are you hopeful for in the future or now?
Uh, well, staying in the same line of thought, my hope and faith is that nothing happens to him or me, and staying realistic because
Hmm.
at the moment nothing really happened. Yeah,
Exactly.
staying realistic
Hmm.
and positive, and and then I also try to create some kind of future reality for me. I live my life at present because nobody's living in tomorrow or in 2021 or
Right.
2025 yet.
Hmm.
But I always have goals and aspirations, and I'm a bit of a dreamer to kind of, I would like to do this, and
Hmm.
I'm so that naturally takes me away from from my irrational fear, if you like.
Hmm. Right. So do you feel like some of the dreams that you have now for the future have changed, or have they just sort of amplified? Now they've become bigger.
Well, good question. I think the kind of the sign they're still there.
Hmm.
Um, One of the things I've been thinking about, um, perhaps because this is a time of reflection, yeah,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
of the present situation that we live in, I've been thinking actually you must do it or you must really try to achieve it because otherwise you might not have an opportunity again. So one or two, I'm actually really keen to put the motion into place, you know?
Hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I feel like, it's a time, this time for, it's sort of forcing us to choose, whether we want to stay in this sort of, you know, darker place, or just sort of like victim place, to, you know, this is an opportunity to be creating. This is an opportunity to be dreaming more, and, brainstorming and thinking and connecting with your
loved ones, with your business contacts and everything, because we have this downtime, right? We have this downtime to do it. Um, so anyway, do you think that people have different expectations of, you know, of what's happening in terms of how, do you think people are being harder on themselves now, or do you think that they're being a little bit more forgiving of themselves?
I think they probably a bit more forgiving of themselves, but also it's a kind of a difficult process because now these is a lot of pressure on people's lives, isn't it? The real issues. I mean, there are issues in the past about, I mean, family commitments, financial commitments, everything has been there, but now this has been amplified, but also is real. And we mentioned irrational fear previously, and this is actually quite concerning in people's lives because it's a real impact, a direct impact, and also without trying to be negative, trying in this line of positivity and change, but we don't know if the negative impact is a month, 2, 3, or 4. So that brings a lot of added stress and strain in people's lives, and it's kind of inevitable not to think about that because, for example, we are in May or June, but it's impossible not to think, am I going to be here in July or August? So because it's the way our brains are wired, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
right. I think that it's also, you know, we also have to accept in a way, and I think it's hard for people to do this, that we don't really have control of certain things. And so, you know, whether this is prolonging, it's, you know, why become, I guess, why become more stressed in the future, not living so much in the stress of the future, but sort of try to focus on some of the things that we can, you know, focus on now to sort of shift that worry, you know, because that worry is there. It's normal that we'd be in a foundation. Our foundation is being sort of, you know, questioned, and it's being shaken, right? Because it's our survival stuff. It's whether, are we going to get sick? Are we going to do this? What about my loved ones? I'm worried about them. What about how am I going to survive and put food in my table? How am I going to you know, work and be financially stable, right? So those are all parts of our sort of foundational things. But, you know, sort of, I feel like sort of accepting that we don't have control of when this is, because this is a global thing. It's so much bigger than just one person. The only thing I think we can control is ourselves.
absolutely right? It's very interesting what you mentioned, and that led me to think about something that my mom tells me all the time, whom you know very well, by the way. And she tells me, João, don't suffer by anticipation. And that is so true. You know, it's no point for me start thinking about, oh, well, what about next month? Am I going to find money for the rent? Well, but we're not in next month. We're not in this month. This month we got money for the rent. So, because I do a lot of positive stuff, as you know, Monica,
yes.
but I have to challenge myself in my thinking and my irrationality, not to lead me to, as my mom says, suffer by anticipation. It's not here.
So mom knows best, right? Yes, I think, you know, just living in the moment, sort of like focusing on the moment and what we can control right now, and be grateful of what we do have, what we can control, what we can do. and not, you know, take the power back individually in a way, or sort of expand that power, because we're so interdependent on one another. So connecting with others is it brings you, I feel, more peace, you know, because you still have that in your life. You still have that ability. Thank God for these technologies that we have to allow us to communicate and be present even though we're not there, right?
Yes, it's fantastic. I mean, we're talking right now using technology. I talk to my parents in Portugal and I'm in UK frequently, you know, and I remember maybe 5 years or 10 years ago, I mean, I was using technology, but perhaps my parents were not up to speed. They were not
Yes.
using it.
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm,
and now these technologies are real for all ages
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, no,
accessible.
it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. Um, so in terms, you know, you mentioned change a lot, and I want to sort of dive a little bit deeper into change. Uh, can you expand a little bit on that, on change?
Yeah, yeah, change is a subject close to my heart, to be honest. And when I think about change, I have my personal experiences, but I think about the world and I think about the future. But I see two main things in change. I see the big change that sometimes we are forced to, big life events, catastrophes, things that we cannot control,
Mm-hmm,
created by other people, by nature, by partners, etc., etc.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And then there is the change that we create, that there is the change that we want to have a better life. We want to create, make a decision around something.
mm-hmm,
I mean, the change, more of our internal change that lead us to think that we want to change something. And I like that type because that type is very, well, is always down to individual and is not a process that happens straight away. Things need to lead to a certain place until you actually make the change.
mm-hmm,
It's a bit like giving up smoking. And you know the cycles of change, you know, the pre-contemplation, contemplation, relapse, thinking about, so, you know,
mm-hmm.
everything is a process. So change is not like something that happens overnight, especially in big areas in life. But I always like to think that we are in control, but in many aspects we know. But
Mm-hmm.
I really like the subject because it's very, it's slightly complex, but
Mm-hmm.
it actually is a lot of action and a lot of different characteristics involved. And because depending on what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be
So
a
when
life.
you're talking about a big change, let's say somebody wants to, um, you know, um, I don't know. Give me an example. And now I can't think of
Give
any.
up smoking, for example.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's a good one. So, like, do you do you you know, there's a process, like there's steps, right?
Mm,
It's not just, oh, I decided to do it and now well, some people that works, but other
yeah.
people that doesn't. So, um, where do people start?
Mm. Well, sometimes, I mean, not analyzing the whole thing, but one thing that is very important and the individual, I mean, the person is not always aware is state of readiness. Okay. So, for example, I can say, oh, yeah, I'm going to give up smoking because it's not good for my health. But
Hmm.
actually, I'm nowhere near ready and is probably a bigger part of me that doesn't want to give up yet. Okay.
So how do you measure that readiness?
Well,
Is it by talking to somebody and you can see where, you know, that's...
Yeah, I'm afraid there is not a tool as such,
Yeah.
but I think it depends on several things. For example, strong will, or the state of readiness, or I mean, what is for example, in terms of smoking, are health issues related, or have I attempted before? So it goes back to this state of readiness, but are other influencing things to consider, you know, and it's down to the individual.
Yeah,
you know, but
it's very
as
personalized.
on our own, yeah, it's very personalized, but it's very difficult to be aware of these things because, I mean, it's not just saying I'm going to give up smoking. There are other elements that affect that decision. You know?
The decision.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it takes action, right? It takes action.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah. So, for people that want to make small changes to, you know, say they're feeling extra stressful, extra, you know, maybe it's something that's come up that has given them stress, whether it's job related or personally, or a loss or something like that. What are some, like, if you could share like 5 things that you would, you know, give them, like 5 tips on how to deal with that, what would they be?
Around managing stress situations and life events.
Yes, in general.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked about before, but
Right.
exercising plays a,
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of like wrap up and give people the five.
So there is my top 5.
Okay.
I would put exercise on the top, you know, because even though we don't feel like it, I think in crisis, exercise naturally will drop on your priority list.
Correct.
But I
Yeah.
think I will have to bring always exercise to the top, because exercise has immense impact on your health, mental health, well-being,
Absolutely.
and the feel-good factor that gives a platform to cope. Okay.
Yeah, it's feel good hormones, right?
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of capability for the change and emotional stability, feel-good factor, mental
It's good
wellness.
for everything. Absolutely.
It's good for everything. So I would put 1, exercise on top. The number 2, accessing the right type of help, depending on what crisis you're talking about. So, for example, if you're going through, let's say, a divorce or a big life change, access a psychotherapist or a psychologist or the right type of professional.
Yes.
A very good friend of mine used to say to me, well, if you want to talk about finances, go and see a financial advisor. Go and see the expert in that field.
Okay. Makes sense.
So, access the right help. The third thing I would say, have a strong routine, regardless of what's going on in your life. So, for example, you know, besides crisis or no crisis, you're gonna exercise in the morning, you're gonna have a shower, you're gonna get dressed, you're gonna work. So that is, for example,
the routine.
A strong routine. Because that strong routine in life enables you to avoiding staying in negativity for as long as is not necessary, but also enables you to kind of taking action and moving, doing other things. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So number 4?
And number 4, I would say, find something that motivates you. You know, whether there is work, I mean, for a lot of people, work doesn't motivate them, but whether there is work, whether there is talking to your son or daughter, whether there is going to the gym, whether there is reading a book, whether there is watching your favorite TV program, because you can work your day in your head, thinking about that. At the end of the day, I know I'm going to see him or talk to her or watch that program. So it's like something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a goal. Absolutely. It's great. Okay.
And number 5, try to learn a new skill, for example.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, which in terms of crisis, it might not seem very appealing, but trying to learn something new.
Well, I think that having that downtime, you have that opportunity to learn something new. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I would link to that, which I really like, is not to focus on the past or in the present. I know we live in the present, but I like to look into the future. You know.
So you're saying make some plans or make some dream more.
Dream more. And for example, when I say learn a new skill, you can link that to thinking about I'm doing this because
I see.
Link to whether there is
purpose.
a purpose, a career change. I'm learning this because I want to use that in the future.
That's very good. Very good advice. Well, João Bocas, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise. And if people want to get in touch with you, they will know how to. I'll link it up. So have a great day.
You too, Monica. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. See you next time.